for Northeastern Illinois to order. And would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Certainly. Director Anderson?
Here.
Director Colson? Here. Director Durante? Director Frega? Aye. Director Fuentes?
Here.
Director Higgins? Here. Director Cotel?
Here.
Director Lewis?
Here.
Director McGallis?
Here.
Director Melvin?
Here.
Sneaky. Director Payne? Here. Director Ross? Here. Dr. Sager? Here. Director Troiani?
Here.
Chairman Dillard?
Here.
We have a quorum of 14 present with 1 absent and 1 vacancy.
Thank you. Director Melvin knows how to make an appearance.
Got to make an entrance.
Good morning, Chris. Timing is everything. It's half a life. So, thank you. Our first action item is item 3A, and that's the approval of the minutes from the meeting held on September 13th, 2018. Are there any questions, comments, corrections? If not, can I have a motion to approve in a second? Director Frega moves we adopt those. Director Sagar, Dr. Sagar seconds. Audrey, why don't you take a roll call so we have a real baseline roll call?
Okay. Director Anderson?
Yes.
Director Colson?
Yes.
Director Frega? Aye. Director Fuentes?
Aye.
Director Higgins?
Aye.
Director Cotel?
Aye.
Director Lewis?
Yes.
Director McGallis?
Aye.
Director Melvin?
Aye.
Director Payne?
Yes.
Director Ross?
Aye.
Dr. Sager?
Yes.
Director Troiani?
Aye.
Chairman Dillard?
Yes.
14 ayes and 1 absent.
Thank you. And it is adopted. Item 4 is the public comment section of the meeting, and we do not have any scheduled speakers today, so we'll move lickety-split right on to item 5, which is Executive Director Leanne Redden's report.
Good morning, everyone. I will attempt to be lickety-split. I haven't heard that phrase for a while.
My grandmother's terminology.
State delinquencies is where we always begin. Through the end of August, the state owes the RTA $399.8, just shy of $400 million in ASA, AFA, and the PTF. So that's the combination of matching paying towards the debt service and the matching funds on the sales tax. The state is 15 months behind on the ASA payments, 15 months behind on the AFA as well, and the equivalent of about 8 months behind on the Public Transportation Fund payments. So the year-to-date cost of carrying the short-term debt that we issue is $5.6 million. We should change this up. We always start on a depressing note. I should start somewhere a little more positive sometimes.
Can I stop,
just for fun.
Leanne, just 1 second. Can I stop you there? So,
You may.
B, with obviously interest rates are rising, and I think they're even going to go up more from what I was listening to this morning on a business report on the radio. What effect will obviously it's going to get more expensive to borrow. What do you think?
We track, as you can see, the total cost for last year and this year. So we're on schedule. This month we will pass what we spent all of last year. So that's not good. The LIBOR has gone up. So what we're doing is, for example, we paid back through the use of some of our reserves and so forth. We continue to pay back as much as we can. Our working cash notes, our DP working cash notes, are notes that we have an unused rate and used rate. So we're trying to keep it as much as possible on the unused rate. I mean, we're still capped out. It's just like, what is it, shuffling chairs on the Titanic. But it saves us money. So we're still at our capacity, but by moving money around, we're able to save some money. I could present the committee the exact numbers. I don't want to guess at them now, but it's substantial savings. I mean, we're measuring what we can make on investing some of the money when we get a little bit of money in versus paying down, even if it's paying it down for like 2-3 weeks and then pulling it out again. For example, we get grant monies that aren't yet dispersed because the invoices haven't come in, or they've not yet been through the approval process. So we'll leverage that, pay down a little bit, because it's easy to pay it down and then take it back out again. So we're doing what we can to try to keep the cost down. But you're right, the cost is going up and it'll continue to go up. So we need to, and you know, were it not for getting that money back from the state, we'd pay all $400 million down right now.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, on the state front, September 17th, the Transportation for Illinois Coalition, which is a group comprised of transportation agencies, businesses, and labor, invited 12 legislators, mostly from upstate, to Chicago for the day to tour several of the transportation sites to let them sort of touch and feel and understand sort of what the impact of the transit system is and what our needs are. Chairman Dillard kicked off the event with speaking to the group, discussing the transit system's importance to the region, but also, I think, as importantly or more importantly, and sometimes overlooked, is the importance to the state and the overall state's economy. And as well, they touched on with the focus on what our capital needs are across the entire system. Then we made the group get on a Metro train and ride it to Grand and Western Avenues to the Metro Yard. They did a tour there, led by Jim Dewinski, and you've all seen how compelling Jim is when he wants to talk to you about sort of how their system operates. Jill and I have done an extended version of that tour, and it's impressive what he's showing you and telling you and introducing and showing you the staff they have, the logistical challenges they have, and the great work that they're doing. Then the group rode the CTA system with Dorval Carter and toured several CTA stations on the near west side, again looking at sort of what they've been able to accomplish with limited funds and how they're working well and efficiently, but what we could do if we had more and what the needs are. It was a really good opportunity for those downstate legislators to really kind of start to get their heads around the impact of the transit system. I think Chairman Dillard, I don't want to steal your line, but they just can't fathom how moving 2 million people on a daily basis, that doesn't even sort of compute in their brains. And so seeing a little bit of that and getting a bit of first-hand experience with it. So I think it was a day. A well-spent day. It was a lot of effort. Jeremy deserves a lot of credit for coordinating the logistics with the service boards and the legislators and getting that group. We hope to kind of replicate those over time and even get more legislators, but we've been identifying ones that we sort of call our champions who have expressed an interest in transportation and for our perspective in the transit space, specifically focusing on the downstate legislators that can help them, give them that broader understanding. Moving to the federal side, September 30th, both the U.S. House and Senate recessed for midterm elections. So unfortunately, no budget negotiations were unable to be resolved, and they couldn't resolve differences in the minibus. It wasn't an omnibus. It was a couple of smaller series of other bills rolled up to a minibus, which would have supported the funding for the U.S. Department of Transportation. So that wasn't resolved. So we're continuing to exist under the continuing resolution funding, the DOT. That is also set to expire December 7th. So hopefully a minibus will pass once Congress gets back into session after campaigning. But if the power changes in Congress, that could impact that. So we'll continue to watch that post the election. Okay, so this year we are now formally well into the thick of the budget season. So this year's public hearings, we're going to do it a little bit differently this year and trying to utilize technology and actually with the goal of making information more accessible and to a broader audience in a more accessible and easier way to get to it. So we are planning to hold all the public hearings, the RTA's regional public hearings on November 28th from 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. But let me explain sort of what we're planning to do. That is, if you may know, that is the same day of the RTA Special Finance Committee meeting here. So what we will be utilizing is, that's the day that the 3 service boards come in, as well as us, and present you the draft budgets, and you do Q&A with them and talk about that. There's no formal action. But we're going to actually stream that. We already stream our board meetings, but we're going to be actually streaming it on all of our social media channels as well to make that information available so the public at any place, any time actually can sort of tune in and watch that conversation back and forth. We will also be simultaneously at each of those locations around the county with staff, around the region, I should say, in each county, with staff at those locations, utilizing technology that will also be able to stream those, have a computer streaming that presentation as well. So if someone didn't have the ability to watch and see the stuff themselves, they could still come to that meeting. There will be staff there. They were also able to answer questions or accept comments. We're also continuing to encourage people to provide us feedback and input via the website as well, and the page that we specifically set up for the public hearings. So that's kind of the way we're handling it. Once we get the specific addresses locked in and put this into sort of a flyer format, I will have Audrey send that to all of you. You will be here though, so you don't have to. Let me clarify too. You don't have to stay through noon. You'll just stay through the presentation. You're welcome to stay longer, but it's once we finish the board meeting, we'll adjourn to additional time for public comment post the board meeting on the 28th. So, okay, and final comment to wrap up. National Hispanic Heritage Month just ended. It ran from September 15th to October 15th, and this year we featured a blog post by our very own Director Fuentes. He wrote us a piece talking about his work in the transit community and why he believes access to transit is important to him. His post also gave us a great opportunity to promote the fact that our Invest for Transit video, that I know you've all seen a couple of times, is now available in Spanish and Polish with captions on the bottom. And we hope this allows more people to get the message on the video and learn of our funding needs. We want to thank Director Fuentes for his effort and encourage any and all of you to consider putting a blog together. Communication staff are happy to help you if you wanted some assistance on that. And I know others of you have done them in the past as well, so I thank you for that. A couple of other things happening around the region. Our regional funding needs continue to be at the forefront of minds of many around the region. And just last week, CMAP approved and released its On to 2050 new comprehensive plan for the region. So it goes beyond transportation, but transportation is a very big piece of that. It's the agency's first real comprehensive plan. The first one was released was Go to 2040, so this is the next iteration of that. The adoption of the plan includes and guides transportation investment, frames regional priorities on development, the environment, economy, and other issues affecting quality of life across the entire region. I was asked to participate on the panel that included DuPage County Chairman Dan Cronin, Cook County President Tony Preckwinkle, Lawrence Massal from the Civic Federation, and ComEd, and but Raul Ramundo. Yeah, that's I was blanking on his last name. I couldn't remember his last name for some reason. I sit on the CMAP board with him. So it was actually a very lively discussion. And I think what it really does is sort of solidify that this region is actually interested in moving forward and recognizes what the challenges and the issues are and what we need to actually, the conversations are coalescing around what needs to happen to move this region forward. Additionally, a few days ago, the Executive Club hosted a civic forum that featured all 4 transit executive directors. I moderated that discussion. It was a good opportunity again to talk to private sector leaders, people who we don't think and live transit every day, talking to them about sort of the importance of the transit system, some of which, a lot of which they take for granted. And even if they don't ride it, it's their employees that are riding it. So that was a good forum to sort of an opportunity to talk to people we don't normally talk to regularly. And tomorrow, Chairman Dillard is participating on a panel hosted by Metropolitan Planning Council in conjunction with a new study that they're releasing called Transit Means Business, again sort of hitting home the impact of the transit system across our region. A couple of other quick points. The GFOA once again recognized the RTA with the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for our 2018 budget and capital program work. It's the 22nd consecutive year that we've received this, and it really does reflect a commitment by this governing body and to the staff for meeting the highest principles of governmental budgeting. And it's a significant accomplishment. I know it might sound that we get it every year or have gotten it for 22 years, but it still is a significant accomplishment. And so congrats to the budget, capital, and performance management teams for the work that they did to solidify that award, that recognition again. And just finally, I know you loved this last year. We won't show it again this year, but it's a serious note because it is a very scary situation. We are re-releasing the Halloween-themed video that many of you remember. We interviewed riders who agreed that it would be very scary if we didn't have the public transportation system in our region. But it did take sort of a lighthearted approach to the severity and the seriousness of the topic. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to jump on our website. We can also send you a link again. It's been posted on our website and our social media channels. This year we added a new hashtag and a quick little intro, sort of a refresh front page that explains why we need the transit system, because we all can't ride on a broom. That concludes my report. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Leanne, was the CMAP discussion, was that taped at all? Is there a link we could see that on?
Yeah, they did tape it, and it should be on CMAP's website, but we can get the link, and we can have Audrey forward the link to all the board members.
And there was also, I went to see Joe Sabo this week at the City Club, so that you can watch his sort of condensed version of it on the City Club link up as well, featuring our wonderful friend back there, who he and his beautiful bride are featured in the On to 2050 presentation, and were featured prominently at the City Club as well. So thank you, and thank you always for your attendance and advocacy for people with disabilities and access. We really, really appreciate it. One last thing to add to Leanne's report. I attended this week at actually it was last week, at the University of Illinois, a summit put together by President Tim Killeen of the University of Illinois, the President of the University of Iowa, and the President of the University of Missouri on infrastructure in the Midwest and how we are all linked together, including the bridges over the Mississippi to those two states. But it included a transit component, and very engineering-oriented, but a lot about safety. And we're going to continue to have representatives, Jill and I think Jeremy, are going to continue to be part of a working group with those three universities, and mostly their engineering faculty, but it is all about bridge construction, safety. One thing that did concern me right off the bat is when one of the University of Illinois engineering professors got up and said 45% or whatever number he used, but I think it was 45% of all of Metra's bridges are 100 years of age or older, and it's hard to believe some are made out of wood. So that was brought up prominently at this meeting right off of the bat, and they have pledged that they will talk about the state of good repair needs from an engineering standpoint, as well as there are amazing things with respect to cost savings, how concrete is mixed and formed differently, non-rusting rebar, which would greatly help and enhance the life of many of our assets. So a little different take, and it's good to have the engineers bolstering our general talks about economic development. But the engineering side is one we cannot forget, and I commend President Killeen and the University of Illinois for taking a lead in saying, hey, something needs to be done with infrastructure here. Missouri, the president of the University of Missouri, who is a former professor at the University of Illinois College of Engineering, Missouri has a ballot initiative that includes, I believe, a motor fuel tax and others. So they have a ballot initiative coming up in the election for infrastructure in that state. And Iowa, as we know, raised their gasoline tax about a year ago, as did Indiana. So Illinois is sort of, we're sitting here, waiting for our gubernatorial election to get on. But again, we're the laggard among all our economic competing states for taking care of our infrastructure. But the U of I and the other two universities will continue to work with their engineering faculty, and they come at it at a little different approach, but albeit safety is our number one concern, and it's good. And they show us how to reduce cost, and the cost of construction you can spread out over a longer period of time, just because the quality of construction and the materials has changed over time, including non-rusting rebar, which was fascinating to me. So thank you. All right, moving right along is item 6, which is the approval of a consent item as it appears on the board's agenda. This is 6A, the ordinance authorizing the special amendment to the 2018-22 capital program, which was discussed in Director McGallis's committee. Pretty non-controversial, deals with PTC. Can I have a motion and a second to adopt that? Director McGallis moves we approve that, seconded by Director Cotel. And with that, is there leave for the attendance roll call? Since this was discussed in the Finance Committee, seeing no objection, leave is granted. And,
14 ayes and 1 absent.
It is adopted. Item 7 is the approval of contract and expenditure items as they appear on the board agenda. Notice that item 7A, which is a contract for IT supplies and replacement parts, is going to be withdrawn at this time. So the items for consideration are 7B, an ordinance authorizing a contract for North Central Service Corridor analysis and an implementation study that affects the village of Mundelein. And ordinance 7C, authorizing a contract for printing and the mailing of our RTA maps. And 7B are the ordinary travel reimbursements as required by law to be approved by this board. Any questions on any of those? If not, can I have a motion and a second to approve 7B, C, and D? Director Ross moves that we approve these. Is there a second? Seconded by Director Higgins. Thank you. There leave for the attendance roll call on these. Seeing no objection, leave is granted, and those will all be approved. Madam Secretary.
14 ayes and 1 absent.
Item 8 is a special action item, and that's our resolution setting the 2019, it's hard to believe it's going to be 2019, regular RTA board meeting dates. Audrey, I just want to make sure on that. The sheet that was in our original packet had they were the right days of the week and the right dates for 2019, but I just want to make sure everything says 2019 on whatever you send out. So just double check that if you would.
Okay.
They all corresponded to 2019 properly, but a couple said 2018, and so with that, make sure that change is done. Any questions, concerns over our schedule? It's normally like it is, and obviously we have the ability to change things, which we try not to do, and lock it in for 2019. Can I have a motion to, Director Pang moves that we adopt these as our 2019 regular RTA board meeting dates, seconded by Director Fuentes. The leave for the attendance roll call. Seeing no objection, leave is granted. Thank
14
you.
ayes and 1 absent.
Item 9 is new business. Any new business to come before the board today? Seeing none. Our next scheduled meeting is for Wednesday, and I underline Wednesday, November 28th, as Leanne outlined, at 9 o'clock. It's a special Finance Committee meeting. So I just want to alert you that it's Wednesday, and it's November 28th, after Thanksgiving. Time flies. So item 10, we do have some executive session business today, and Nadine, Madam Counselor, do you want to give us our exceptions for being able to go into executive session, please?
If the board would vote to adjourn from executive session, we can then continue the meeting in closed session pursuant to subsections 2C21, 2C5, and 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act.
Great, thank you. So can I have a motion and a second that we resolve ourselves into special session? Director Trione moves we go into executive session, seconded by Director Melvin. Is there leave for the attendance roll call, and we will go into executive session? If there is no other business to come back out here before the full board. So with that, Director Higgins moves that we adjourn, seconded by Director J.D. Ross. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And thank you. We are adjourned.